For years, More Than Farmers looked unstoppable. The gardens were thriving. The harvests were massive. The lifestyle felt intentional, disciplined, almost too efficient to be real. Hundreds of thousands of people tuned in to watch a family prove that you could grow most of your own food and take control of your life. It wasn't just homesteading content, it felt like a blueprint for freedom. And then something shifted. Uploads slowed, the tone changed, titles hinted at big changes, and even something sad. Loyal viewers started asking quiet questions in the comments. Was it burnout? Family struggles? Behind-the-scenes pressure? Or was there something deeper going on that no one was saying out loud? Because here's the part people don't talk about. Building a self-sufficient life on camera comes with a cost. Every harvest is filmed. Every setback is public. Every decision gets analyzed. And when your brand is built on productivity and abundance, even a small pause can feel like a red flag. So what really happened to More Than Farmers? Did they step back by choice? Or were they pushed into it by something no one saw coming? Let's break it down. At first, More Than Farmers didn't look controversial at all. It looked inspiring. A normal family quietly proving that you don't need hundreds of acres or a massive budget to grow real food. Michelle and Cody built their brand around something simple but powerful. Abundance in small spaces. Raised beds packed tight, harvest baskets overflowing, shelves lined with preserved food. It wasn't flashy. It was effective. That's exactly why it worked. Viewers weren't just watching gardening tips. They were watching possibility. The idea that maybe, just maybe, they could produce most of their own food too. Reports and interviews suggest they were growing a huge portion of what they ate on just a few acres. That number alone hooked people. Because in a world where grocery prices keep climbing, seeing someone actually do it feels almost rebellious. And the numbers proved it. Hundreds of thousands subscribed. Videos consistently pulled strong views. Comments flooded in from people, saying they started gardens because of them. That kind of impact builds loyalty fast. But here's where things get interesting. When a channel becomes known for efficiency and productivity, expectations rise with it. Every new upload has to show progress. Bigger harvests, better systems, smarter methods. Audiences don't even realize they're doing it, but they start waiting for the next upgrade. And that's the pressure no one talks about. Because once your identity online becomes the family who grows most of their food, slowing down isn't just a break. It feels like a contradiction. Viewers don't see the off-camera exhaustion. They don't see the long editing nights. They don't see the physical toll of filming while farming. They just see results, and when those results start coming less frequently, questions follow. At first, it was subtle. A slightly longer gap between uploads, a shift in tone, nothing dramatic. But loyal viewers notice patterns faster than anyone. And what happened next is where the speculation really began. The shift didn't happen overnight. It crept in quietly. 1 week without an upload isn't unusual. Even 2 can slide by without much noise. But when gaps stretch longer on a channel known for consistency, people start connecting dots. And with More Than Farmers, viewers definitely noticed. Then came the video titles that made everyone pause. Why I Stopped Posting Homestead Vlogs. Thandy isn't just a casual update, it's a statement. It signals something changed behind the scenes. And when you build your brand around documenting daily progress, stopping those updates feels bigger than it sounds. Suddenly, the comments weren't just about tomatoes and preservation tips. They were filled with concern. Some supportive, some speculative. A few quietly critical. Was it burnout, family privacy, financial pressure, creative exhaustion? The internet doesn't like empty space. It fills it with theories. And here's where it gets complicated. Homesteading content looks peaceful on camera. Soft music, garden tours, organized pantries. But the reality is physically demanding. Long days in heat, constant problem solving, animals getting sick, crops failing. Now add filming every step, editing for hours, keeping up with an algorithm that rewards consistency over sanity. And the pressure multiplies fast. Creators rarely show that side, not because they're hiding something dramatic, but because exhaustion doesn't perform well. As upload schedules shifted, some viewers wondered if the 75% self-sufficient lifestyle was sustainable long-term while running a growing YouTube channel. Others defended them, pointing out that boundaries are necessary when your entire life becomes content. But speculation only intensified when another title hinted at big changes, and it's sad. That word, sad, didn't come from the audience, it came from them. And once viewers sensed something emotional behind the camera, curiosity turned into full-blown intrigue. Because now it wasn't just about posting less, it felt like something deeper was unfolding. The moment that really fueled the speculation wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, a tone shift. In earlier videos, the energy felt driven, structured, focused on systems, how to grow more, preserve more, optimize more. But as time went on, viewers began picking up on something different. The updates felt heavier, more reflective, less about output, and more about limits. And that's when the conversation changed. Instead of asking, how did they grow that much food? People started asking, are they okay? When creators open up about slowing down, it breaks the illusion of endless productivity. In one update, Michelle acknowledged stepping back from regular homestead vlogs. That alone confirmed what many had sensed. This wasn't random inconsistency, it was intentional. But intentional doesn't mean easy. Running a homestead is already a full-time commitment. Add homeschooling, parenting, preserving food for winter, managing land, maintaining equipment, and then layer a 500,000-person audience on top. Every harvest becomes content. Every setback becomes a decision. Share it or keep it private. And here's the hidden weight. When your platform grows because you make hard things look achievable, admitting overwhelm feels risky. Not because viewers are cruel, but because expectations are powerful. Some followers speculated about burnout. Others suggested algorithm pressure. A few wondered if the homestead itself was changing. There were no confirmed scandals, no dramatic exposés, just silence where constant updates used to be. And silence on YouTube is loud. The truth is, stepping back from daily vlogging doesn't mean failure. It can mean survival. Protecting family privacy, protecting mental health, protecting the original reason you started in the first place. But for an audience used to steady growth and visible abundance, even a strategic pause can feel like something bigger is unraveling. And just when viewers were adjusting to that reality, another shift hinted that the story wasn't finished yet. Then came the title that really made people stop scrolling. Big changes on the homestead, and it's sad. That wording alone shifted the tone of the entire conversation. Up until then, the slowdown could be explained away as burnout or boundaries. But big changes suggested something structural, something permanent. And adding "it's sad" made it personal. Naturally, speculation took off. Some viewers wondered if they were downsizing. Others guessed financial strain. A few even questioned whether the dream of growing most of their food had become too demanding to maintain long term. None of those theories were confirmed. But when creators hint at emotional shifts without laying out every detail, curiosity fills the gaps fast. And here's the reality about homesteading that rarely makes the highlight reel. Land evolves. Priorities evolve. Families evolve. What worked 3 years ago might not work now. Animals age out. Gardens get redesigned. Workloads become unsustainable. Sometimes big changes are less about drama and more about recalibration. But to an audience invested in the journey, recalibration can feel like loss. Because people didn't just subscribe for tips, they subscribed to a vision. A version of life that felt controlled, intentional, abundant. So when that vision shifts, even slightly, it feels bigger than it is. What stood out in their updates wasn't scandal. It was emotion, reflection, a sense that the pace they had been running at might not be the pace they wanted anymore. And that's where this story stops being about algorithms and starts being about identity. When your brand is built around productivity, scaling back can feel like admitting something, even if it's healthy, even if it's necessary. The sad part may not have been about failure at all. It may have been about letting go of an old version of the homestead and the content style that came with it. But that realization raises a deeper question. If More Than Farmers was evolving, what does that mean for the future of the channel itself? What most viewers never calculate is the double workload. Running a homestead is already unpredictable. Crops don't care about filming schedules. Animals don't wait for good lighting. Weather doesn't pause because you're editing. Now layer YouTube on top of that. Planning content, filming multiple angles, recording voiceovers, editing for hours, responding to comments, negotiating sponsorships. It's 2 full-time jobs stitched together. And the algorithm doesn't reward balance, it rewards consistency. If you post weekly, you're expected to stay weekly. If you document daily life, you're expected to keep documenting. Even a short pause can impact reach. That creates a subtle but constant tension. Do you live the life, or do you capture it? For channels like More Than Farmers, that tension is amplified. Their audience didn't just want inspiration, they wanted proof. Proof that growing most of your food is sustainable. Proof that small-scale abundance works. And proof requires documentation. But documentation can quietly drain the joy out of the thing you once loved. When creators start protecting parts of their life, it can feel like distance to viewers. But in reality, it may be self-preservation. The homesteading niche has seen other creators speak openly about burnout and pressure. It's not scandalous, it's human. And here's something else people overlook. As a channel grows, the stakes grow with it. More subscribers mean more opinions, more scrutiny, more messages dissecting decisions. Even positive attention becomes weight when it never shuts off. So when More Than Farmers began adjusting their pace, it may not have been collapse, it may have been recalibration, a decision to protect family, energy, and long-term sustainability rather than chase short-term views. But that shift raises one final uncomfortable thought. If the most disciplined, efficient-looking homesteads on YouTube struggle to balance it all, what does that say about the reality behind the screen? What most viewers never calculate is the double workload. Running a homestead is already unpredictable. Crops don't care about filming schedules. Animals don't wait for good lighting. Weather doesn't pause because you're editing. Now, layer YouTube on top of that. Planning content, filming multiple angles, recording voiceovers, editing for hours, responding to comments, negotiating sponsorships. It's two full-time jobs stitched together. And the algorithm doesn't reward balance. It rewards consistency. If you post weekly, you're expected to stay weekly. If you document daily life, you're expected to keep documenting. Even a short pause can impact reach. That creates a subtle but constant tension. Do you live the life, or do you capture it? For channels like More Than Farmers, that tension is amplified. Their audience didn't just want inspiration, they wanted proof. Proof that growing most of your food is sustainable. Proof that small-scale abundance works. And proof requires documentation. But documentation can quietly drain the joy out of the thing you once loved. When creators start protecting parts of their life, it can feel like distance to viewers. But in reality, it may be self-preservation. The homesteading niche has seen other creators speak openly about burnout and pressure. It's not scandalous, it's human. And here's something else people overlook. As a channel grows, the stakes grow with it. More subscribers mean more opinions, more scrutiny, more messages dissecting decisions. Even positive attention becomes weight when it never shuts off. So when More Than Farmers began adjusting their pace, it may not have been collapse, it may have been recalibration, a decision to protect family, energy, and long-term sustainability rather than chase short-term views. But that shift raises one final uncomfortable thought. If the most disciplined, efficient-looking homesteads on YouTube struggle to balance it all, what does that say about the reality behind the screen? Here's the part that changes everything. Nothing happened to More Than Farmers in the dramatic, headline-grabbing way people expected. No public fallout, no exposed scandal, no sudden disappearance. What happened was quieter and arguably more revealing. They evolved. Over time, the content shifted from constant documentation to more intentional sharing. Fewer routine vlogs, more focused updates, a tone that felt reflective instead of relentlessly productive. And if you look closely, that shift mirrors something they've hinted at more than once: avoiding overwhelm. When a channel is built on the idea of producing 70 to 75% of your own food, scaling back can feel contradictory. But sustainability isn't just about gardens, it's about people, energy, family rhythms. And maybe the biggest lesson hidden in all of this is that self-sufficiency loses its meaning if it costs you your peace. Viewers often forget that homesteading seasons change. There are high output years and slower ones, expansion phases and simplification phases. What looks like pulling back might actually be refining what matters most. And the audience response? Surprisingly supportive. Yes, there was speculation. Yes, there were questions. But many longtime followers understood. They'd been inspired not just by abundance, but by intentional living. and intentional living sometimes means stepping off the content treadmill. The irony is powerful. A channel that taught people how to slow down, grow their own food, and live deliberately eventually had to apply that same principle to its own online presence. So what really happened to More Than Farmers? They chose sustainability over spectacle, boundaries over burnout, longevity over constant output. And in a platform culture obsessed with more, that decision might be the most radical move of all. But that leaves one final question hanging in the air. What does this mean for the future of homesteading content? On YouTube, what makes this story stick isn't drama. It's what it reveals about the entire homesteading space. More Than Farmers became popular during a time when people were desperate for control, over food, over finances, over uncertainty. Watching a family grow most of what they eat on a few acres felt empowering. It wasn't just content, it was reassurance. But reassurance can quietly turn into pressure. When audiences see abundance week after week, they start believing it's constant. They don't see crop failures that aren't filmed. They don't see the arguments over workload. They don't see the nights when editing stretches past midnight after a full day outside. They see the finished pantry, the full harvest basket, the calm explanation. That's the hidden paradox of homestead YouTube. The more successful you are at presenting a peaceful, efficient life, the harder it becomes to show the messy middle. And maybe that's what really happened here. Not a collapse, not a controversy, but a recognition that turning your private life into public proof has limits. When your identity online becomes the family who does it all, stepping back feels like breaking character, even if it's healthy. More Than Farmers didn't disappear. They adjusted, they slowed, they rebalanced, and in doing that, they unintentionally exposed something bigger than their own channel: the sustainability of content about sustainability. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Growing food is seasonal. Energy is seasonal. Life is seasonal. But YouTube demands consistency. Weekly, monthly, relentless. At some point, those two rhythms clash. So maybe the real takeaway isn't about one channel at all. It's about the cost of documenting self-sufficiency in a system that rewards non-stop output. And if one of the most disciplined-looking homesteads had to recalibrate, it forces viewers to ask themselves something deeper. Are we inspired by self-sufficiency, or are we consuming it like entertainment? In the end, what really happened to More Than Farmers isn't some hidden scandal or dramatic implosion. It's something far more human, and honestly, far more telling. They built a brand around sustainability, discipline, and producing an incredible amount of food from a relatively small homestead. Viewers didn't just watch for tips. They watched for proof that a different way of living was possible. And for a long time, that proof showed up consistently. Harvest after harvest, system after system, season after season. But sustainability applies to people too. At some point, the pace that fuels growth online can start draining the very life you're trying to document. Homesteading is seasonal. Energy is seasonal. Family needs are seasonal. YouTube isn't. The platform rewards constant output, steady uploads, and visible momentum. And when those rhythms collide, something has to give. What we saw wasn't collapse, it was recalibration. More Than Farmers shifted their pace. They set boundaries. They adjusted how much of their private life became public content. And while that sparked speculation, it also revealed something important. Living intentionally sometimes means disappointing expectations, even supportive ones. So the real story isn't about disappearance, it's about evolution. And maybe the bigger question isn't what happened to them, but what their shift says about the cost of turning self-sufficiency into performance. Because in a world obsessed with more, choosing balance might be the boldest move of all.